I wanted to know, I wanted to refine, I wanted to get to the
Yeah.
bottom of this.
If you are anything like I was, you've probably spent years trying to make a better version of yourself, reading books, going to therapy, meditating, trying to understand yourself. And maybe like me, you've started wondering why nothing really changes. Learning every technique you could find because you genuinely believed that the next insight would finally change everything. But somehow it never really did. By the end of this video, you'll understand why so many intelligent, self-aware people stay trapped in the same emotional patterns, even though they know exactly what's happening.
And then, you know what, Arwen, I realized is that.
So you started meditating when you were 10, and it
Yes.
got you places, right? You were an aware kid. Well, I had a traumatic childhood. There wasn't room for that kind of stuff in my.
Well, you know, it's interesting. To be honest, looking back, there was no overt trauma in my childhood, but meditation was definitely, and spirituality was used to escape. You know, it was my core
Okay.
tool to
Yeah.
get
Okay.
out of a lived experience that was inherently painful. It was not
Mm,
about coming back to myself in a safe way. It was an attempt
mm.
to leave,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a big life lesson. But it started early. Even music became the pattern, though. I talk in those YouTube videos about like what is the ultimate pattern. And so a wound comes up when we feel like, maybe we're too much and we had to leave our body. And
Mm,
then, there's a rule that protects that wound. And for me, it was like, I'm not safe here for some reason. I need to
yeah.
do or I'm not enough just being me. And so
Mm,
meditation and music, academics were co opted to be the absolute best no matter what. And
mm.
like, there's so much pain in that because we aren't in our lived experience where
Yeah.
all the aliveness happens,
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
magic happens, where the ease happens. It was just a constant
Exactly.
push. And so
Exactly. Yeah.
it's so weird. It's like from the outside, it looked like this guy was living this successful, great life, but on the inside, he's just like ravenous, exhausted,
Yeah.
frustrated,
Never there.
depleted. It
Yeah.
was like this weird dichotomy.
Yeah.
No one was going to understand. It's like
Yeah.
everything looks great, but
Yeah.
it's not great.
No,
you
no.
know,
You have to, yeah, be inside to experience it. I know that from myself.
I was a university professor, and I was so um, entrenched in this fear-based predictive model and my own unworthiness that I
Mm,
believed the thing to keep me safe was to work, you know,
mm,
just push myself, perfectionism, people pleasing, um, like
yeah.
being the best. And
Mm.
the problem is you get to one top of one mountain and then you start seeing that there's, an infinite mountain range.
There's always more. Yeah.
And so, like, when I
Yeah.
realized that what was essentially driving me in that moment, and it was kind of like that meditation moment that I talk about in that TEDx talk, was that, oh my gosh, all of this is being driven by a core wound of unworthiness because I don't feel like I'm enough.
Mm.
And that was once that was seen, the like the interest in doing all of that work just dropped. There's no
Yeah.
reason for it anymore.
No.
All the steam had kind of evaporated.
I didn't really live. I didn't like, people who were talking too loud, and because I never gave myself permission to do that, to go after the things that I found interesting. And then when I found out that, okay, that's actually a shadow side, um, that's what was when I started to live, and I stopped being irritated on those people who were always taking up the space. I just, yeah, it
That's a
turned
great
out,
example.
it turned around to be somebody that I could learn from, right? Yeah, I was a
That's
bit fascinated about how can you talk so loud all the time and always talking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that example.
Mm.
of yours.
And every time we spot a kind of thing like that, our world gets bigger, right? We are suddenly able to do more, to give ourselves permission to do more, to be more.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it increases our capacity, as you would say, to be
Yeah.
ourselves more authentically in
Yeah. Yeah.
different environments. So, yeah, that's exactly true for me. Like with
Mm.
my family or certain friend groups, definitely with the academic crowd, I would just kind of shrink. It would be there's only
Mm.
a certain Andy that could show up in those groups, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's not freedom. That's
No.
nervous system control or trying to feel
Yeah.
safe in
Yeah.
maladaptive
Yeah.
ways.
So, is there a technique to this 0 point? Get into your 0 point, or is it just a whole mindset thing? Or
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't think a technique has been articulated yet. I'm one that Arwen, and maybe same for you, is that I have come and have worked through so many different psychological and spiritual techniques. I wanted to know, I wanted to refine, I wanted to get to the
yeah,
bottom of this. And then, you know what, Arwen, I realized is that the very act of pushing and healing myself and refining and getting there was actually the problem.
yeah, yeah. I know that. I know
Push,
what
push,
you're
push.
talking about. Yeah, yeah. It's only when you ease up and say, "Okay, I'm like this. It's okay." That's the 0 point. That's a real 0 point, right?
Yeah. And like what I think we're all going to understand is that, whatever you call it, like religious spiritual traditions might call it grace or love or God or divinity. I don't know. I have no idea what to
Mm,
call it,
mm,
but it reveals itself when you just get out of the way, when you let your
yeah,
stories go, when
yeah.
you know you let all of your interpretations down. And I think that's the strategy. It's to get out of the analytical mind and into the experience of the body, welcome
Mm,
whatever comes.
yeah.
And of course there's specific things we can do if there's more contraction at certain stages, of course, but
Mm.
I think that's the simple framework.
Yeah. Do you think healing is ultimately about feeling better, or about becoming someone for whom suffering is no longer the default interpretation of experience? Ultimately, about feeling better, just feeling better? Or, yeah, or about becoming someone for whom suffering is no longer the default interpretation of experience?
Oh, I love that. Right on. I feel like with your work as well, as to be a human, you are in a nervous system that is primed to keep you alive. It has
Mm,
millions upon millions of pain receptors. There's all this interoceptive awareness, meaning like I'm aware of how my body feels inside, my
yeah,
thoughts, all this stuff. So it's like
yeah.
a giant receptor to find pain, right? But there's a difference between pain, the physiological response to something that's happened to the body, and suffering, which is
Yeah.
a more of a psychological experience of you not being confused about who you are. And so
Mm,
I feel like for me, and what my journey has been, is that there seems to be an inevitability around pain, just being a human, but the suffering does seem to lessen once we come into deeper contact with who we really are in
mm,
truth.
mm. It, it's like it's a shortcut,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because somebody, as Lisa Barrett Feldman, was it Feldman?
Yeah. Yeah. Feldman
She
Barrett.
would say that you gradually change the prediction of the nervous system of the brain, right?
Yeah.
for feeling better and better, and at last you are someone who doesn't need the suffering as a baseline.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think like what Arn, what's interesting to me and love to get your thoughts on this is like you cannot think your way into this. And
Mm-mm.
I tried
I've tried.
yeah. I've tried so many different ways to think my way into this, to understand my way into this. And so,
Yeah.
for your listeners, it's like the invitation is to just step into curiosity about like a different experience. The solution is available. It's just we got to get out of the way. The
Yeah.
solution is in the experience.